Hello and welcome to NHL Best Bets. Yesterday there was only one game in playoffs. Minnesota visited Vegas and they had a last game of the season in Las Vegas because home team was clearly better. They won 6-2 the decider game 7 and continued to second round. So our pick with high value or high odds with Minnesota was not correct, but Vegas captain Mark Stone skated with the binocular performance there. 0 goals, 0 assists, 0 points, and our pick was correct there in player prop. So big profit yesterday, and also our prediction that we did before the playoffs started that Vegas will continue to second round in Game 7 against Minnesota was exactly correct. Tommy, how did you see this game?
Well, I would still say the picks were good. With this value, Minnesota, they played exactly the way that they did previously. Now Vegas scored goals from their chances. It was a unsung hero, Matthias Janmark, who scored a hat-trick in this game. Probably something no one expected, but he's been very good in the playoffs. A playoff-type player as well. Mark Stone, no points. An excellent bet from us. Great find from the simulations that when Vegas scores 6 goals, you would think that Mark Stone is one of the players to score a point. He didn't, so it was a good pick. Minnesota was exactly this much worse team overall. They did play defensively. They did play as they have all this series and tried to challenge Vegas, but Vegas was in the end the better team and deserved definitely to go through in 7 games. It was a good game 7, a lot of goals and a very good performance from both teams. No shame on Minnesota. They were simply just outplayed by Vegas team this time.
Now we have 7 teams ready for the next round. Only the second team from the North Scotia division is waiting to be decided between Montreal and Toronto. And the first game of the second round starts tonight when Boston hosts New York Islanders in Boston Garden. Let's go through first a little bit the series predictions, what the simulations have calculated. Boston New York Islanders, it looks that Boston is favorite there quite clearly, but both teams have quite strong home advantage there, and most probable outcome is Boston win in 7 games, so 4-3. Do you think Islanders can upset here?
Yeah, we saw against Pittsburgh how Islanders can play. They are big bullies. This is going to be a very violent series of ice hockey, I'm sure, because Boston plays the similar way. Very physical, not a lot of space, a lot of speed. Islanders can turn the game around very fast, so Boston needs to take care of the puck. They are a better team when it comes to this sort of offensive skill. They have the better players, especially the first line of Boston. That's probably one of the reasons why they are favorites in this series. But Islanders, like we saw, is very dangerous team, especially at home. You have the old barn there full of people. It's a crazy place to go, even for a team like Boston that is playoff built kind of team. So this is going to be an intense series. Wouldn't be surprised if it goes all the way to Game 7, like the simulations show. 31% of all the simulations go to Game 7. Whoever is going to win that, we'll see then. But this is going to be a very interesting, very playoff-like ice hockey event for hopefully for at least 7 games.
Yeah, it's a real playoff hockey as it is, as it could be, because like you said, both of these teams are built for playoffs. Coaches are used to coach for these kind of matchups, and especially Islanders after winning high octane offense, Pittsburgh Penguins showed that they can defend pretty steadily and maybe can also defend the Boston #1 line that is usually responsible of most of the Boston performance.
Yeah, that has been a little bit of an issue for Boston Bruins, is that if the first line of Pastrnak and Marchand can be shut down, how much they can score. Also, their depth now is a little bit better. Taylor Hall has played actually very good playoffs, which goes a little bit unnoticed because Boston was such a balanced team against Washington Capitals that there was not a lot of players who played better than others. It was a good team effort, but Taylor Hall has brought a lot of depth into this lineup. So now Boston, even if the first line is out, maybe they are able to score more goals, which has been a little bit of an issue in the past couple of years.
Discovery Central Division final is a game between or series between Carolina and Tampa. Carolina was number 1 seeded. They had a tough fight against Nashville Predators. Tampa was number 3 seeded. They had not catched any home field or home arena advantage here. They start away this series as well, but simulations predict a very, very even series. And before playoffs started, Tampa was the one who was predicted to win this one, but now the coin flip has turned to Carolina 52-48. Which team has upper hand based on your qualitative expertise?
Well, I would go all the way Tampa Bay because of they know exactly what it takes to win the cup. They already done it once. Like I mentioned before, I think Tampa Bay has a chance to even perform a little bit better than they did against Florida. It might be needed now against Carolina because Carolina, of course, is an up-and-coming team. Young guys, a lot of hunger there, so they have a great chance to win it. But personally, I would flip this coin towards Tampa Bay. But the simulations, like you mentioned, have it 52% for Carolina. But this is so close that Game 7 and again is a very likely result in this. These teams are very evenly matched. Not a lot of differences in any part of the ice. Maybe Tampa Bay a little bit deeper if you go down the third, fourth line. They do have a little bit better players there. But Carolina already in the playoffs against Nashville, they showed that they are capable of scoring from the bottom as well. Their defense has a little bit room for improvement as well, especially when it comes to moving the puck. So I think it's going to be another great series, maybe 7 games. Wouldn't be a surprise at all.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference between this series and the one in East Division between Boston and Islanders is that these teams don't have too big home arena advantage here. It's basically 50-50, both home and away, and both teams have showed in first round that they can win away pretty easily. So here the game can be 5th, 6th, 7th, and it doesn't matter too much which team has the home arena there, because a road team can pull the victory as well.
Yeah, it seems that every game is pretty much of a coin flip, so no much difference there. Also, the difference between this series and the one in Boston or New York is that these Boston and New York Islanders are heavy-set teams, very physical, while these teams, Carolina and Tampa Bay both, are more of a skillful, fast-paced hockey team. So maybe not as traditional playoff teams as we've seen, but Tampa Bay especially can change their style. They can play very physical as well and tight defense. So let's see how it goes. But this seems to be a little bit different series than the one in Boston.
Yeah, and it looks like there's not too many injuries in either of these teams, so they can play with their best players if nothing happens.
Yeah, that's always a good thing. Nobody wants injuries, so best players play.
Then the third series in Honda West Division, Colorado against Vegas. Colorado has rested almost a week there now after sweeping St. Louis. Vegas will rest 1 day, travel to high altitude in Denver, and will face the biggest favorite for the Stanley Cup this year. Simulations haven't shown too much love for Golden Knights earlier, and they don't do it, or it doesn't this time either. Colorado is 70% probable to win this series, and the most probable outcome is 4-1 victory. So do you think Vegas have any chances against high octane offense of Colorado?
I think they do have a chance. I think the simulations still don't rate Vegas high enough. But like we saw against Minnesota, Vegas has their issues. They're not scoring as much as they probably would like, but they have a great defense, great goaltending, and this is something you need in order to upset Colorado. I do think that Avalanche has learned their lesson from last season, maybe playing a little bit more tight in the defense. They were quite open last season, of course, also lacking goaltending because all of their goalkeepers just got injured. So now they do have cover on that side. 70-30 numbers in simulations seem a bit high, but when you think of it, what Vegas had to do against Minnesota in 7 games, now they go straight up to Colorado, mile high place. A horrible way to start this series is after 1 day rest, you instantly go against maybe the best offense in the league. So Colorado has to be ready. They have rested. They're ready for this. They watched all the games for sure that Vegas has played against Minnesota, and they know exactly what to do. So this is a hungry team waiting for Vegas. So I do think that they should be favorites. 70-30 is a bit high number in any playoff series, but we should trust the simulations as we've seen in the past.
Yeah, and I think if you find some kind of good odds for these series bets, these 4-1, maybe 4-2 are pretty good numbers with high probabilities based on simulations. I would think that Colorado would take first 2 ones at home, then maybe Vegas will come back and win the number 3, but Colorado has shown that they can win both home and away. They can score whenever they want, so it's very difficult team to stop.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna go to Game 7 this time because of partly because of the fatigue that Vegas has had to go through 7 games in such a short period, and then Colorado is rested. So Colorado needs to take advantage of that early on, and if they manage to go 2-0 to Vegas, it's probably going to be over in 5 or 6 games.
Tonight, like I said, Boston starts their series against New York Islanders, and Montreal will have their second chance to survive against Toronto at home this time. We have picks for those 2 games, and bit against our strategy. Both favorites, both have values for sure, but usually these low odds are not taken. This time there's not too much choices, only two games, and we will also keep the player props for some other day to take another top player that won't be scoring a single point. But this time Toronto is maybe awoke from the beginning. They have chances that they will close this series tonight and then be ready for Winnipeg, that has also waited 1 week after sweeping Edmonton. If Toronto-Montreal goes to Game 7, I think Winnipeg will have a quite clear upper hand after long rest, and these teams have used their energy in many games of this series. And then Islanders-Boston, like discussed a bit, Boston, very strong home team, have find their rhythm later this season, and especially in playoffs, tough games against Washington, many overtimes, and at the end Boston came out as a clear and deserved winner of that one. So they continue doing what they have been doing.
Yeah, pretty unlikely picks from us, these favorites here, but there is value in both of these. We have Boston Bruins 66% in the simulations, and we do have Toronto for 67%. So these are so clear numbers that there is no way to bet against these two better teams than their opponents. Toronto played really badly in the first period. In the last game against Montreal, they have to do better, and I do think that they will. And now they want to cut this series short because they do have to face 10 minutes Winnipeg Jets, who have been resting already. So you don't want to go to Game 7 and take a longer route. But Toronto is so much better team than Montreal that they have all the keys to cut this series now, and they do want to do that. So it's a great value there with the odds we have. And the first game, of course, Boston, New York Islanders is always a first game, so maybe a little bit standing back, but the way these teams are playing is very similar. Both teams are good teams, but Boston just that notch better, so these odds are great for a home favorite here. I do think the first game will set the pace of this series, how it goes. Islanders managed to beat Penguins in the overtime in the first game in the first series, but Boston has shown that they are not easy to break, and I do think that home, this is a very good home team, so they will take this victory in the game 1.
Yeah, out of the 8 games that these teams played during the regular season, Islanders won 5, Boston 3. Boston won all those 3 games at home. Islanders won also all their home games and then 1 game on the road in overtime against Boston. So very, very even, and like we've seen, very strong home arena advantage for both of these teams.
Yeah, in the regular season, both teams had their ups and downs, especially Islanders. We remember had this long stretch when they were playing pretty badly, but then got better to get into the playoffs. Boston as well had a little bit of up and down. They had a couple of injuries. We remember that game they had AHL defenders only in their lineup. I think they lost to Washington like 10-2 or something. But this is now over. This is playoffs. The best players are there. They're playing, and we saw against Capitals how Boston can play this playoff game, and it's a very good team.
Let's see how the second round of playoffs starts tonight, and also if Toronto can clinch the last spot in North Division playoffs round 2.
Yeah, a lot of hockey again.
See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.